Welcome to the Occupational Safety Leadership Podcast, episode number 308. In today's episode, we're going to talk about compliance and conversations. So, as safety folks, we do a great job of compliance. We have binders full of procedures and SOPs and checklists, and just the list goes on and on. And of course, by binders, I really mean, of course, now we now have hard drives and servers full of this stuff, but we do a great job of sitting down and looking at everything we can do to follow every bit of a law that's out there, and whether that's federal, state, best industry practice, all that good stuff. So we do a great job of that, but yet accidents happen still, you know. So I think the one thing that we as an industry, and I'm really speaking from older Dave talking to younger Dave, like I really wish I had focused more on conversations and building relationships. And sometimes it literally just starts one talk at a time. A lot of us have hundreds of people, sometimes thousands of people. Really hard to get to know every single person. And that's just not realistic. We're going to meet every person. We're going to know everything. But get out there, meet these folks, talk to them, understand why things aren't happening, you know. So many times there's a very mixed message out there. Everybody talks about safety first, and nobody's going to skip procedures, and they're not going to. We care about people. All of us have heard those slogans. All of us have heard those things, and it really is true. But that doesn't mean that a mixed message isn't sent at the same time. You know, if we're saying that we really care about people, but then we're telling them, hurry up, you guys are late, we're missing this deadline, speed it up, let's go. You know, it's really adding on the pressure for somebody to possibly skip a step. They 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 get so wrapped up in what the mission is that they lose focus that there's nothing that we do that's so important that me or others can get hurt out there. You know, so um, build those relationships, talk to people, find out why they do the things they do. And um, it's not always apparent. It's not always obvious. Um, some folks are really difficult when it comes to answering questions because sometimes they view us as a authority figure. You know, anytime you talk to a cop, you got your hands on 10 and 2. You're trying not to make too much eye contact. You don't want to make them mad because now the ticket's worse. So, so there's a lot of folks who have that mentality out there, and that's just because that's just their experience. Has nothing to do with you, but that's their lived experience out there. So do everything you can. Compliance is awesome and great and everything else, but reach out, find out, talk to these people. And what really helps me, just to kind of break the ice, is just to own it right from the get-go. When I show up and I'm looking at a piece of equipment, you know, I'll find somebody and say, I don't know what this does. Help me to understand it. Help me to walk through it. You know, a lot of people have a sense of pride when it comes down to this is what I do for work. You know, they're really happy to show you all that stuff. You will find folks that aren't, of course, and that kind of stuff. But for the most part, people are really good about that stuff. So you're breaking down those barriers. Look for things that you have in common. One thing that really helps me and helps the place that I work is that a lot of people are really into football. You know, so when football season comes, it's really easy to ask how the team went, and all that kind of stuff. Then that really helps to break down those barriers. It also shows that you're a person too. You know, so it's a whole lot easier just to talk to a person as it is to talk to a perceived authority figure or somebody that can get me in trouble. So I did work at a place once where when I walked in, it was really a very I hate to call it eerie, but it was really a kind of an odd thing how people really didn't talk much to each other. And it took me a really long time to break down a couple barriers and talk to somebody. And a guy was telling me that, well, the previous safety person, when they would find something that wasn't right, what they would do is, of course, this was prior to the days of emails. You know, you did memos and you talked to the bosses and you did everything you could, and the person was in trouble because they didn't do the following thing. And just that really left a bad taste in the people's mouth because they really thought that, like, hey, I think I'm really doing a good job here. Like, if I'm doing something wrong, then tell me I'm doing something wrong. Don't not tell me I'm doing something wrong. Tell everybody around me I'm doing something wrong and then I'm in trouble, like actually correct the behavior, because many people, and I hate to say this, if you're trained by somebody who's doing it wrong, well, all that they're doing is now teaching that next person how to do it wrong out there. So really sit down, understand the folks, understand why things are happening out there. And a lot of times it leads back to the culture. Sometimes the culture is you keep your mouth shut and you just work. Other culture is safety is in charge of safety. You're in charge of making the widgets. We make the widgets. Safety has to be the one that corrects us and says something has to be done. So really sit down, talk about these things. Compliance is great, and that's a great first step, of course. But let's not stop at compliance. Let's figure this out. So with that, let's go ahead there and wrap it up. I want to ask the listeners out there, if you're getting anything from these podcasts, help me out. Leave me a 5-star review. Part of my goal is to have these resources, and many times, of course, it's not really a resource. It's a older Dave talking to younger Dave. I want the next generation of safety folks to maybe pick up some tips, some tricks, some things that worked for me. Doesn't always mean it works for you, but it's another strategy out there that you can make your workplace safer. I really struggled. I felt like I had zero resources. I didn't have much support, and I did some dumb stuff. Luckily there wasn't anybody hurt, but I really did some dumb stuff. And now that I've been doing this for close to 35 years, boy, I've really picked up a lot of great tips and tricks that help me along the way. I want to pass this knowledge on to that next generation. And with that, let's wrap it up. Thank you for joining me. My name is Dr. David Ayers. Have a safe day.